Hey guys, this is video 13 in the Testing the Spirit series, and today we're going to be talking about the thorn, Paul's thorn, that is. And that's found in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 7 through 9. I'm just going to read it really quickly, and this is Paul talking. He says, "And lest I should be exalted above measure by the abundance of the revelations, a thorn in the flesh was given to me, a messenger of Satan to buffet me, lest I be exalted above measure. Concerning this thing, I pleaded with the Lord 3 times that it might depart from me. And he said to me, My grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in your weakness." And of course, that's a popular passage. I'm sure you've heard it before. I myself have heard many sermons on it. And I got to say that even after I heard the sermons, it still wasn't clear to me what Paul's thorn was. And I don't think it was even clear to the people that gave the sermon. But it's really pretty obvious. Scripture is pretty obvious here that Paul's thorn was due to the amount of revelation that he received. A messenger of Satan was sent to him. And so, first and foremost, when I read that, what came to my mind was, throughout this series, I've been reminding you that just because you heard the wrong voice does not make you a bad person. Just because dogs are following you around does not make you a bad person. And here we see Paul, of all people, had a messenger of Satan following him around, sent to disrupt him, sent to crush him, sent to destroy him, hinder him, slow him down, and so on and so forth. And so just because you heard the wrong voice does not mean you're a bad person. I don't know how many times the Lord has had to remind me of that. And so I keep reminding you because it's very important so that you don't fall into the mode of feeling like you're crazy or feeling like you must be in the wrong or, sin, have hidden sin somewhere that the Lord isn't showing you or just so you don't be frustrated. Okay. So I wanted to point that out. I said before, that sometimes the oppression can get really thick in testing the spirits, and that's something I've experienced. I've come to some really, really dark places in testing the spirits and diving deep into the things of God and in the spiritual realm, which Satan does not like or approve of or want. And so he will do anything to hinder you, keep you down, push you back, and so on and so forth. In fact, I remember God had just, opened up a huge door of ministry opportunity for me. And I remember praying and saying, Lord, why now? Why are you making me do this now when I'm limping? Because that's how I felt with all this oppression on me. It was so heavy. And I'm like, any other time in my life, I would have gladly accepted this ministry opportunity and done it full force, but you're making me do it now while I'm limping. And I heard him as clear as day say, or you've reached your destiny and Satan doesn't like it and will do anything to keep you from it, and I'm upholding you. And so, obviously I had to repent and be like, that's true. These are things that are sent from Satan. However, anything that the enemy intends for evil, God can turn around for the good. And you can see how he told Paul, my grace is sufficient. My strength is made perfect in your weakness. And let me tell you that Satan's strength is also made perfect in your weakness. They both can use our weaknesses. We can either use our weakness as a tool for evil and let Satan have that every time we give into it, or we can give it to God and let him promote it, let him use it for good and for his glory, right? So without getting into a whole nother message, let's get back on the page. And so you can see, if you think about like your dog, right? You let your dog out in the yard and, it comes trying to run back in, but it's limping and it's got a thorn in its paw, right? And so it's hindered, or you're walking out to your car, you're determined, you're going to go unload groceries, and all of a sudden you're barefoot, and all of a sudden you step on one of those thorns in your foot. You're going to limp the rest of the way. It's going to slow you down from what you're trying to do. Or you go in your kid's room and you're putting away laundry and you step on a Lego, and so it's sent to hinder, it's sent to slow down, and so on and so forth. But God can use that for his good, because we can't do that, and we're weak. And so if we take our weakness and we say, I can't do this, and the more we plead, the more we're begging him, the more woven in we become with him, right? the more clinging we do, and the more we spend time with him in intimacy, the deeper in the things of God that we go, and so on and so forth. Before my breakthrough, I had a dream where I was out in my front yard and I was catching for these things, and it was invisible. And I heard what I know now after testing, the Father's voice say to me, there's going to be a downpour of manna and you are required to gather as much as you can. Well, it was months before that dream, came into place, and my breakdown, my breakthrough, whatever, if you've seen my other videos. And so when that revelation did start pouring down on me, also came my own thorn. Also came this oppression that I had to learn to deal with and to relate with, and how to respond to this amount of revelation as well as amount of oppression from the enemy. And so I even had one of my own dreams one time where I was going through a very, very desperate place where, I hadn't seen much of the promises that God had made me being fulfilled. And I was having lots of revelation. I wasn't sure what was true, what wasn't. And I would try to, kind of throw that out there with people, with things that, that I heard or seen or dreamed, but they weren't being honest with me about the response. And so I kind of felt like a crazy person, and the enemy loved to play off of that and try to keep me locked down, believing that I was crazy and so on and so forth. And, I remember even coming to the point of thinking, this must be what it feels like before you check into a loony bin. So, just this really dark place. And I dreamed that, I was on this uncovered tram, which is super important because it was uncovered, meaning I wasn't praying as much as I needed to. I was praying, trust me, but not as much as I needed to. The Lord told me in another dream during that time that I was going to need to have double the protection, and I wasn't responding to that, and so I was sinking little by little. Anyway, I'm on this uncovered tram, and I see these wild animals, which are fluorescent, and my mom is driving, and I'm trying to take pictures of them, and then all of a sudden they were full grown, and they look like they might try to eat me, and so I tell her, don't stop, and keep going. And all of a sudden we come to a stop, and this tiger or whatever it was came, and I could feel it's sinking, his teeth sinking, and I'm crying out, and I'm like, lead me not into temptation, but deliver me from evil. And then the next thing I know, I'm in an apartment with my husband, and I said, what happened? How did you stop them? And he says, I shut it off. I said, shut what off? And he said, you had a collar around your neck that was transmitting a frequency calling wild animals to come eat you. And so what the interpretation of that dream was that feeling of saying, that maybe I am crazy, was turning them into full growns, just like in the book of James, sin produces death. And so I could feel that was getting ready to take me under because of the lies and from the flesh and from other people and from, the enemy himself, that I was getting ready to sink. And so I cried out, and I would cry out, and I would cry out, and the Lord was telling me ahead of time, you're going to cry out from a desperate place, and I'm going to shut it down, and you're going to be fine. And all of a sudden nothing, just like was in the dream. And so finally, I don't know, 3 weeks later or something, I could feel the peace. I could feel his presence. I felt it was quiet. It was light. If you've ever felt that type of bondage, you know what it feels like. And so, God does deliver us from evil. And if you're walking through that same kind of thing, you can cry out in desperation and ask him to give you some clarity, to back you up for a little bit. Sometimes we just need to back off and then dive back in and kind of catch a breath of fresh air and so on and so forth, just like in real swimming. And so we just want to abide in the secret place of the Most High, right? Because then he'll command his angels and not let us dash our foot against that stone. And so that's really what Paul's thorn was all about. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the thorn and lies and so on and so forth in the next video. But for now, I just want to encourage you to really press in if that's you, if you're struggling, if you're starting to feel like maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm not hearing from God, just press in, let the Lord heal you, cry out, deliver me from evil. All right, we'll see you in the next video.